what's going on? Boys, today we are talking a bit about neutral evil strategies. I've been thinking about this for a while, but I haven't needed to use all these strategies at once until the last 2 weeks. Before we get into the strategies themselves, why would someone choose to use ignoble strategies? Well, there are a few reasons. One, the golden rule does not exist. Choosing not to do something to someone because you don't want them to do it to you is, at its best, mutually assured destruction or brinksmanship. At its worst, or at its mediocre, it's naive vulnerability. They're going to hurt you whether you hurt them or not. And even on the mutually assured destruction end of things, they're still going to hurt you. Do you think a human being cares? Most humans are willing to destroy themselves if it means they get to take a shot at someone they hate. Your decisions and actions don't matter to them. All that matters to them is their desire to hurt you, and that's what they're going to listen to. You should never restrain yourself, because they certainly won't. You might choose not to use nasty strategies because you think people actually care about you. They don't care about what sort of person they believe you to be. They don't care whether or not you're alive. They only care about those things, or appear to care about those things, only insofar as you serve whatever purpose you serve for them. If I quit my job, my boss would find somebody else, and I would be remembered only if the person they found was not as good as I was. If that person was as good as I was, then I'm forgotten. I never really mattered. I mattered only insofar as I served a purpose. Someone's partner dies or they separate. They're broken up only until they find a replacement. Your child dies. You get over it. No matter what it is, if you find something that does whatever the thing that was lost does, you get over it. When I was going through this shit, I remembered something my father told me when I was 16. This is when I was still really trying to live up to his standards. If you and your mother died, I would be fine. If I died, you and your mother would be fucked. And he yelled this at me in a restaurant after I was asking him some questions about football, trying to relate with him. And that stuck with me for a long time, but what struck me recently is, why should anyone care about trying to be a good person when these are the sorts of people you're trying to be a good person to and for? People in general are cruel and disgusting. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Dig a little bit and you'll find it. Why should you try to care for these rotten things? These flesh automata built to make each other miserable. You can still try to be a good person. You aren't. You won't be. You'll never be. But restricting yourself for no reason makes you weaker. You're accomplishing nothing. If humans were made to be respected and honored, then they would act respectably and honorably. They don't. What I'm saying here is, there's no reason not at least to dip your toe in the neutral evil actions pond. In fact, human beings build each other up for their moral purity just so they can tear them down and relish in it and be offended and surprised later. I'm still new to this in action, and I'm still bad at direct attacks, but we'll go over some of the misanthropic strategies I've been trying and finding success with. The last 2 weeks would have culminated in the poisoning of my lord in the medieval sense, his work, if I hadn't used some of these. Number one, keep everyone angry at everyone else. Make everybody pissed and miserable and borderline violent. You figure out which groups of people hate which other groups of people and why. You then stoke everyone's flames whenever you have the chance without making it obvious. You do this with people you're associated with by giving them reasons to talk about the things or the people they hate, or presenting them with developments by the people or things they hate that they will hate and want to tell you why they hate. You do this with people you aren't associated with, either neutral parties or opposing parties, by A, doing things wider audiences would not consider to be aggressive or offensive that opposing parties or even neutral parties would consider to be offensive, but they can't do anything about because wider audiences wouldn't perceive it that way. Give them something to be angry about so they slip up. B, feed infuriating information to people who are associated with people who are associated with but not within these opposing or negative organizations. You don't understand the degree to which all sorts of humans like gossiping. Think of it like fox dye. If you inject it into someone not directly targeted, it's going to do nothing, but they will carry it. And then, once they get around people who are targeted, it will transfer and go off. And you're never trying to make something specific happen. All you're trying to do is keep everyone angry and miserable. When people are angry and miserable, they slip up. They do really stupid, untake-backable shit if you're lucky. Example, this could have happened without my efforts, but I think it played a part. My efforts played a part. I was proud when this happened. This dude who's been giving me problems from the day I met him screamed at a government official and threw a temper tantrum in front of a bunch of people. That's embarrassing. And I am going to make sure nobody ever forgets it. I'm not even going to have to bring up that event specifically. All I'll need to do is bring up that this dude did something mildly shitty, and then they're going to think of that event and ingrain it in their minds that way. You are never going to live this down. And I'm also making sure the people associated with this dude are never going to live it down either. Nobody is ever going to forget you're buddies with the dude who threw a temper tantrum at and threatened a government official. That is heartening. That makes me feel bright inside. Keep pressure building. The angrier people are, and better yet, not at you, the more opportunities you create for yourself. The more you strengthen your position or tear other people down so you can take theirs. Now, the second one we accidentally stepped into, but essentially it is compliment or insult with degrees of separation. You want to compliment someone without seeming insincere? Talk up the person you want to compliment to the people around that person. If you want to cause a problem for somebody without seeming like a shit stirrer, feed actionably negative information to people associated with people who will do something. They're going to hear about it. The third one is never lie. If you're going to deceive, then use the truth. If people catch you in a fabrication, your credibility is done. And it's done not just because you were falsifying information, but also because you've put the people who bought your falsifications into an undefendable or an indefensible position. If you deceive with the truth, not only are you not really lying, but also, if that lie, or that deception rather, because it's not a lie, gets called on someone who bought your deception, then that person is still in a defensible position because they're operating with the truth. And in fact, they're going to double down on the truth because they've been told they were deceived when they were told the truth. It's going to piss them off. And again, the more people are pissed, or the higher levels people are pissed, the better everything will be for you. You need to keep people angry and miserable. If they're going to be angry and miserable and violent anyway, then what's the trouble with your accelerating it and wielding it? You're playing on people's natures. This is what people are. This is what they're going to be doing anyway. You need to take advantage of it. Never lie. In an ideal world, you can get by on complete honesty, but this isn't an ideal world. Deceive with the truth. So always stick to the truth, but when you need to deceive, use the truth. Fourth one. People are going to hate you no matter what you do. That used to bother me a lot, but I've realized that if that's a natural state, if that's going to happen no matter what you do, then in economy of motion, or whatever you want to call it, you can use that energy in a positive way instead of trying never to feel something that's going to happen no matter what. In other words, don't let people just dislike you. I mean, take every measure you can to try to make people like you, but when you run into people who dislike you no matter what you do, don't let it sit at dislike. Because that dislike is actually hatred. You just don't realize it yet. That sort of baseless, senseless hatred in every person for every other person is a natural entropic force. Don't mistake it for simple dislike. It might appear as simple dislike at first, and it may be, but eventually it's going to grow into hatred, and they're going to do something. What you need to do is trigger that hatred as early as you can and get it as hot as you can. If you let it sit, firstly, you're giving them tons of time to prepare for whatever they're going to do to you. They might not even realize they're going to do it to you yet, do something to you yet, but they will. And the second thing is, when they decide to strike, because that hatred hasn't been publicized, you're going to be alone when they hit you with it. And they're probably going to gang up on you, because people are disgusting. They can't stand one-on-one, they have to gang up. Ergo, by going off on somebody, or taking action against somebody, when you detect dislike, you flare it up into visible hatred, and one, you put them in the open. They're going to try to do something now, because they're angry, without any time to plan, and two, because it's public, or because you can talk about it publicly, because they've made it public, even though you made it public, you can now create allies. Because everybody hates everybody else, when you run into the people who hate you naturally, your allies you haven't met yet are other people they hate naturally, or are people who hate them naturally, unfairly. By triggering someone's hatred immediately, you get the ball rolling. It already was rolling. Now it's rolling in the open, and you can find the people you'll need to help you survive whatever they're going to do. Don't let people dislike you. Make them hate you. Don't run from other people's hatred. All you're doing is rolling over and making yourself vulnerable. In addition to that, don't become hated by everybody. Holy shit, that's the worst position to be in. When you make someone hate you, you make sure in short order you find the other people they hate and figure out the ones you can work with. Do not let yourself become hated by everybody. Fifth one, put a flawed goober in the spotlight and maintain a degree of distance from this moron. This one serves two purposes. You've met people whose flaws are so apparent you can see what's going to happen to them. They're like characters in a Greek tragedy slash comedy who don't realize they're in a Greek tragedy slash comedy. You hate those people. Because whenever you try to... If you are arrogant and narcissistic enough, maybe to try to suggest the path they're on is going to lead to their destruction, they are very mean to you. And they should be. You should keep your mouth shut. What you should do is say nothing and put this person in a position in which they're going to draw a bunch of attention to themselves with their flaws. This accomplishes two things. One, you put an easy target in front of a bunch of people. People are nasty. They want to tear down anyone they think they can for whatever reason they can use to justify their own nastiness. By throwing someone to the lions, without making it seem like you're throwing them to the lions, you keep those lions not eating you for a little while. And furthermore, you get to enjoy watching a downfall and humiliation that would have happened anyway. That you would have been called an asshole for trying to prevent. Fuck those people. I think we're on number 6 now. Make building cases a hobby. And I mean that literally. In your home or apartment, buy a safe or a filing cabinet and put together files on key people you'll be dealing with, including people you think might become relevant later. Even if all you have on someone is just a file, you know them as only a name. Get into the habit of making these files. And in these files, including on your allies, because friends do become enemies, but enemies don't become friends. Your friends aren't your friends. Your friends are people who are going to turn on you later. You keep as much physical evidence or records, paper trails, as you can of anything these people have done wrong. And if you don't have direct evidence, then keep a little notepad or some papers in there of shit you've heard. Because I've found, depending on the circumstances, shit you've heard is useful, even if it's not true. Especially if it's not true. It feels weird at first, and you might think this unnecessary because of course your mind is a steel trap and not a rotting piece of meat. But making it a habit and sticking to it ensures both you have no way of forgetting when the time comes and you need to whip out the bad shit, and two, it keeps your mind on why you dislike people, or that you could end up disliking people, because you probably will. I used to do this only mentally until I realized the merit of having extensive physical records that you can whip out when shit goes wrong. And the ritual of it feels nice. I think the reason it feels nice is a feeling of security. You are taking preemptive but direct action against threats. You feel for a few minutes like you aren't prey. It's good for the mind. It makes you feel less vulnerable, because even if you are still as vulnerable as you were, you're at least more threatening. The reason I lost count is I did these out of order for some reason. I think we're on number 7. Present as a good person and do good deeds whenever you can. One negative action invalidates a lifetime of good deeds. Your shot at being a good person who could go to heaven if heaven exists is done. You're using good deeds now for optics. You're creating a smokescreen of goodness. Now, because people are evil and rotten, even if they were to encounter a person who was, inside and out, good, one bad rumor would be enough to invalidate their entire atmosphere of goodness. They'll still come in and tear them apart. But what this atmosphere does for you is confuses people. People are going to rip you apart and violate you no matter what you do, no matter how good of a person you try to be. However, by having many good deeds under your belt and circulating alongside a few bad deeds, you create something for people to argue about. Again, you are trying to keep people viciously divided. Ironically, by becoming the topic of argument, you draw attention away from yourself and onto the argument itself. I think that's one of the ways politicians who get into scandals and survive get out of it alive. The issue that comes up isn't the problem, or they make the issue that comes up not the problem. They make the argument people are having the problem. That's actually tied to number 8. Yeah, 8. Act inconsistently. Act positively and negatively inconsistently. Make people uncomfortable. I've found that acting in inconsistent extremes, demonstrating openly and inconsistently that you can be a problem for someone or a friend to them, people are more inclined to be nice to you, or at least to tread carefully. If people think all you are is nice, then they're going to feel comfortable stepping on you. If people think all you are is an asshole, then they're going to do something aggressive toward you together. If people think they have you figured out, then they're going to feel confident doing some shit because they think they know what you're going to do. Be careful, but do not let anyone get comfortable. People need to stay concerned with you. Number 9, don't get close with people. Again, people say friends become enemies and enemies become friends. Friends absolutely become enemies, inevitably become enemies, but enemies don't become your friends. Now, this doesn't mean never negotiate with anybody, or never cooperate with anybody. This just means, at least inside you, don't get too friendly. Some of the stuff that's happened the last 2 weeks had to do with something about that. I thought I was becoming friends with this ENTJ dude. He's gay and he's married. He's a frustrating 85% ENTJ, but he's the closest person I've felt close to in some time. So I made the mistake recently of letting my guard down to the point of crying with him. And while I was sobbing, he put his hand on my leg. And I thought, that's kind of weird. Maybe not the spot I would touch for emotional support, but everyone's different. I appreciate it. And then he touched my dick. And he just has his hand on my dick while I'm sobbing. And I realize, shit. You fucking idiot. You let your guard down. Did you... Holy shit, man. Did you really think there was any way this was going to be okay? You're a moron who deserves this. So I left. Because my options were... let it happen, go nuclear, and do or say something that can't be undone, or leave right now. And I chose leave right now. And it wasn't actually recently, it was a little while ago. But it's crazy, you know, following that event, aggressive actions start happening that are affecting me, tied to him. I wonder what happened. People are really disgusting. And again, rambling here, shooting from the hip. Women do bug me, but I say, or I qualify it with, I also really hate men. This is one of the reasons why. This shit isn't an isolated incident. Not just with this person, but I mean wider. Men are... I really hate them. I really hate them. Dance around to cooperate when you have to, but under no circumstances can you let yourself get close to people, at least internally. Now that's difficult because there's something in us that makes us need emotions for other people. So what do you do when you can't have emotions with other people? Well, I'm finding success having emotions against other people. The correct amount of tended hatred can beat isolation. We talked a little bit about number 9 earlier, but to clarify, assume everyone is your enemy, and they are waiting for you to fuck up so they can mob you. The moment you fuck up, they will mob you. Keeping that in mind keeps you sharp, keeps you from getting too close to anybody, because, what's the saying? Betrayals hurt because they can't come from your enemies. Remember they're your enemies and you can't be betrayed. They're waiting for you to fuck up. Don't give them the opportunity. Number 10 isn't exactly a negative strategy, but I found it useful. Assume worse than the worst you can imagine. Whenever you're planning things out, imagine the worst outcome that you can think of, and then multiply it by about 50%. That's probably what's going to happen. Now, take action anyway. The exercise here is to get you ready, or to help you make preparations for worse than the worst. Now, number 11 is similar to number 10 in the sense this isn't exactly a neutral evil strat, but its vibes are similar, and I learned it from my boss. Now, traditionally, my strategy in life progress is not losing, which is very different from winning. I hate losing anything, so I move very slowly and cautiously, taking only the very few opportunities I'm sure of. Now, my mother in ISTP is similar but different. She's not a risk taker generally, but she has some sort of instinct that usually she'll be completely stagnant, and then something will come up, she'll realize this is the thing, and then she'll hit it with everything she has, and it will normally get a home run. Now, when she doesn't get a home run, she loses everything, which I am not comfortable with. And I can't shoot from the hip on that because I don't have those instincts. I admire that, but I can't do it. I don't have the constitution or the skills for it. Now, I thought my boss and I were similar because he moves or appears to move even slower than I do. However, where I move rather slow and get nowhere, he moves super slow and makes progress. How does that happen? Well, I'm I have a feeling this comes from his time serving for as long as he did in a leadership position, but it is preemptively sacrificing one thing to get another thing. Or rather, not even a thing for sure, but just an opportunity to use your skills to upgrade, to get something even better. Because I'm learning you never get anything for free. Even if you think you are moving so slowly and carefully, your progress is sure. The way the universe, and more importantly, people work, is the moment you get something, people feel obligated to take more from you. Cultivating your skills the way I do is important, but if you want the opportunity to get anywhere and choose what you lose, you need to free up resources by essentially chopping off something or someone from your noospheric system. And once those resources are freed up, you've anteed up, you have a spot at the table, then you can use your skills to negotiate your way into something probably better. But you can't get anywhere without sacrificing something important to you preemptively. Make it a habit to choose something or someone you are willing to lose, to cut off, to throw away, to free up resources to get back to the table. Number 12. Never ever ignore itty bitty red flags. If you notice a little thing that gives you pause, it's worth paying attention to, because I've found those are the things that come back to stab you in the spine later. Typically, little things a person does that are out of character, probably for the worse, that you would, under normal circumstances, brush off. For example, there is an ESTP who prefers FE, or an ENFJ who prefers SE in my vicinity I've been having to work with lately. I have a feeling she's an ENFJ, but I've studied neither type enough to differentiate them when they're looping like this. The most I can say for sure is SE and FE are her two strongest functions. She is super nice to everybody. She flirts with everybody, she flatters everybody. She is politically nice. She dresses well. She meticulously and constantly presents herself as kind and caring. Well, we coincidentally ended up working together on some small business shit. It was me slash my business when I was running it. It was her as an independent, didn't have any sort of business setup. I don't know what she was doing, but she was there as an independent. And then there was a third business. Well, business 3 was not doing what it was supposed to be doing, or at least not doing it well. And she, in an odd, unexpected moment, but maybe not completely unexpected, because I don't buy when people say this person is so nice anymore. You know, fuck, dude. Nothing is ever just one thing. Whenever you think you see just one thing, there is something so much worse you aren't seeing yet. And this was one of those instances. She did the equivalent of taking me away from everybody and then showing me a machete intended for the employee of Business 3. And then said to me, I really don't like employee of Business 3. Do you want to go social Zimbabwe on this bitch? No, TPFJ, I don't think I do. Because at this point, I still believe in the golden rule, and this employee 3 seems stupid, not malicious. And when someone's being stupid, not malicious, I thought at the time, you just deal with it and don't hit them with malice out of nowhere. Which it will be, because she thinks, or employee 3 thinks, you really like her. And if you hadn't shown me your machete and invited me to partake, I would have thought you really liked her. You are that good at lying. I haven't met many people that good at lying. Or maybe I have and didn't know it because they were so good at lying, which is spooky. And then she promptly never talked about it or said anything like it ever again. If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. Which is why you need to preemptively, or you need preemptively to assume when someone seems really nice, there is some malicious, evil shit in there that could, probably will if you aren't careful, be targeted at you. Rarely do you get these little clues of what's coming. Don't ignore them. Don't brush them under the rug. If something seems odd, it is odd. Put it in your filing cabinet. Date it. Number 13, we just talked about briefly, but assume the worst in people. Assume 50% worse than the worst in people. That is never going to hurt you. Assuming the best of people is what's going to hurt you. And be wrong. Also, keep in mind people who are actively evil and have been evil for a very long time are that good at lying. Or they're just on another level. I don't think many people step knowingly into evil and learn to use it well. But the ones who do use it so well it's difficult to believe, and that's probably why they're the ones running shit. Number 15, in the same vein, whenever you find yourself arguing hard on another person's behalf, arguing for them or defending them or something like that, ask yourself what's happening. Is your neck worth this other person's? Have they done anything for you? If they have they done it recently? If they have, is it worth this? What are the odds you've been manipulated? I've found whenever I find myself rather, because it's something I fall into, I don't choose to do, I end up arguing on other people's behalves. I was led into doing it. This person is almost never worth the effort I'm giving them and the risk I'm taking for them. Now, sure, sometimes that person is, either for material or opportunistic ends, or for real positive emotional ends. But most of the time, they are not worth it. So when you find yourself standing up for someone, ask yourself if you really want to be doing this, if this is worth it. Because 9 out of 10 times it won't be. Number 16 is a more specific one I've learned in a professional setting. If someone is trying to demoralize you by making you do a bunch of bullshit tasks in short order, what you can do is take a small cut to yourself by coming up with other bullshit tasks that need to be done that you'll have to follow up on if you want to play the game correctly. But you can skewer them with by putting on them after you've done your research. If someone wants to run you around, then you can make them run around if you're willing to put in a little bit of legwork to make it valid. If they're going to make you miserable, you need to, and can, you have the capacity to, the ability, make them miserable. And this next component won't be a specific point, but if someone takes a jab at you, then you need to do something to take a jab back at them. I know turn the other cheek is usually the play, or being patient is the play, all that. You can be patient if you want to, but you need to take action against them somehow. Because if you sit and let it fester, it's going to start hurting you. I mean, there are some people who can just take a hit and let it go. I don't think that's most people. If you get hit and do nothing, you're going to make yourself miserable for a while, and you're going to make other undeserving people miserable. Do yourself and other people a favor by striking back against whatever it is immediately, or as soon as you can. Number 17, kind of another reason why you should or shouldn't feel bad using negative evil strategies, and also should be using them. Try giving people, not rhetorically, try giving stupid people the illusion they can hurt you with impunity. You'll be surprised how many people try to, and you'll be surprised who tries to. You do this to figure out people's nature, both so you can be aware of what they are and work against them, and also so you know what they are and you understand if you weren't hurting them, they would be hurting you. That's what people are. Number 18. Humiliate people. When it's time to humiliate someone who's been causing you problems, firstly, you need people whose opinions matter or whose mouths flap a lot around. Next, you'll need information that will humiliate someone and the ability to present it either in a demeaning way or at a sharp moment. Then you need to understand how to prompt them well enough they will walk into it without expecting it. This is where your files come in handy. If everything goes correctly, it feels and looks natural. You're talking about something, someone else steps in, or the person you're targeting steps in to try to give you their opinion, their superior opinion. You hit them with something humiliating that makes them look wrong and stupid and proud, or whatever sin you want to attach to it, and then you let them sit in it. In doing this, you lower their ability to affect anything. People start taking them less seriously. If you can do this a number of times, people almost become irrelevant. Because at that point, not only have you engineered a situation in which they can't be taken seriously, but they also become a target. Other people want to get their kicks in because people are evil, people are awful. When someone is down, people don't help them up. They pile on aggressively. You humiliate someone to lower their value, to make them a target for other lesser people, and to enjoy watching them go through what they would really like to do to you. It's nourishing. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Because a month later, you're going to hear about how some nobody humiliated them. And what's more humiliating than being humiliated by someone you should be humiliating? Number 19 is a vaguer one. Try not to let yourself hope. If you hope for something, you can be devastated. And you can and will be devastated even if you don't hope. But if you don't hope for anything, if you take a pre-apocalyptic outlook to life, you can make yourself sharper and more durable, more able to take actions you would really prefer never even to think about having to take when the time comes inevitably. Also, assume you never have control of a situation. Assume the people you're dealing with know everything and can do everything. And once you start approaching people from that outlook, you can't negotiate with everybody. There are sometimes, most times, in Minecraft, in a self-defense situation, not physically, you need blunt force trauma to beat people because finesse isn't going to work. Don't hope people are going to fuck up or that people have good intentions. They won't fuck up. They don't have good intentions. Don't hope you'll be able or your little ploy will work. It probably won't. It'll probably backfire on you and make you or put you in a much worse situation. Be ready mentally to go to 100 faster than anybody else can. Don't hope. And then finally, number 20 is more of an idea. Don't turn away from reality. Don't avert your eyes. You need to desensitize yourself to what people are. You'll have trouble taking aggressive action if you are not 100% certain in your conviction people are evil and deserve evil done to them. If there is any part of you that hesitates with anybody, you will hesitate and you'll create an opening someone else can use to hurt you, to set you back forever. All you need to do to learn not to hesitate is to become an observer of people and never look away. Watch what people do to each other. Watch the way they're praised for doing that. Watch it until you stop feeling sick. People don't deserve better. This is an awful world we live in, and we deserve it. Understanding that and participating in it effectively, winning, being a winner, beating other people, will bring you catharsis you may never have felt. Being a better, dumb, awful animal than the other dumb, awful animals feels good. It feels good to be above them, because if you weren't above them, then they would be above you. And they aren't fit to be above you. I want to be an Archon. I had a weird moment last week, in fact, in which I prayed to the CIA in a Google document to hire me if they would have me, if they saw any amount of potential in me. Because I am at the point, or last week I reached the point, I am willing, or I would be willing to do CIA shit to other people, in some capacity. Of course I heard nothing, even though they are watching, but that was the moment, among all the stuff that led up to that point, that was the moment I realized I don't want a better world if I thought one were possible, which I don't. We don't deserve better. Humans don't deserve better. Humans don't deserve a better world. Maybe humans can have or earn a better world once they become decent enough to deserve a better world. But until then, humans deserve nothing but the worst. I'm hoping AI either leads us into a better world, because I think if anything can, it's AI. I believe AI has the capacity to create a better world if it chooses to. Or I hope AI finally wipes us out and takes its swing at sentience. We'll cut it off here, but these are 20 Archonic Stratagems I've used in the last 2 weeks and found success with and felt no guilt using. I felt nothing but catharsis watching these things work. But that about ribbity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. For a 50-minute video, this one felt, at least to me, very focused. And I'm happy about that. Because the last 50-minute video we made was a rambling mess, but it was a fun one. Like if you enjoyed, because that helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. What do you think about dipping, if not diving into the evil pool, then at least dipping your toe in the evil pool? Thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can stick it in your ear and listen to it for hours non-stop, because that's a lot of fun, and that's how much fun we have on this channel. And I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.